just going for it. I'm going for it with Evan Carmichael. I mean, how amazing is it that we lured you back to the Obsessed Studios where we love to eat Doritos and talk to Evan Carmichael.
I can't see Mika. I don't know if that's intentional or
It is
It's
because
intentional. Today is being mysterious day because it is my birthday after all.
oh, I was
Let's
going to say it's
go.
her birthday.
All right.
You want to guess how old she is, Evan?
24.
That's right.
That's right. Perfect.
No, thank you so much. She's in Florida and the electricity is crazy still because of the hurricane. So,
got it.
but she could not resist the opportunity to meet with like our favorite person in the whole wide world.
Well, I'm ready. And let's go. I know
Keeping the momentum going.
So let's go. I'm ready when you are.
We had the other host, if you remember, I know you do a lot of this. She had a baby, so she's just taking a little time off. But we're keeping the momentum
I like it.
going
Okay.
here. We're letting the ideas flow. And that's what you do so well.
All right.
Like update us since, it's been a few months. Like what amazing things have you been doing since?
Oh man, 3 months. That's like a decade. I don't know.
Wow.
Working on the channel, launched a new book, wrote it in 5 days and published it in 8 weeks.
How did you do that, by the way?
So it's a fun story. So the new book, it's called Momentum. That's what
Momentum. That's why I said we're keeping the moment. I bought that actually. I have that.
And so here's the thing. I like saying yes to things. So I was at an event and there was a woman I met there who, I know who she was. She had no idea who I was. And she said she was a book medium and she helps pull books out of people. And she likes to channel books with people. I was like, okay, cool. I like your energy. Why don't we do an Instagram live on my channel and you could do your channeling on me. Now in my head, I had no book. Like my publisher's been asking me for a book. My agent, my lit agent have been asking me for my next book. And like, I don't have another book, guys. Built to Serve is my book. That's the book. That's still the one I want to promote. Mm-hmm. There's no interest in writing a new book. I get on the session with Kira and a book idea comes through me and It was called Momentum. And then I knew the next question he was going to ask was, okay, well, when are you going to start writing it? And because it's called Momentum, you can't really write it next year sometime. It's like, okay, I guess I got to start now and build momentum. And my first book took me a year to write.
Wow.
This one I wrote in 5 days. And I had it wasn't 5 like full days. I had meetings, I had podcasts, I had my company to run. I had 42 people on my team. I had, I had my normal life that I had to run and take care of. There's Mika. We see her.
She's so cute, isn't she? It's her birthday. We're keeping the momentum going. Okay. There we go. Look she pulled through. I love it.
Yes. Today's my birthday. And Jules actually gifted me your book, Momentum. And I love the cover. And you talk about how you're not missing anything but momentum, but please continue the story because 5 days to write a book.
It's impossible, but it's not impossible.
So, in that process, I didn't know how long. Initially, the challenge was to write it in 8 weeks. So when we did the Instagram live together, it was get the book done in 8 weeks, which already seemed fast because it took me a year to write my first book. So I said, okay, well, I'm just going to get started. And most of the time, I think when we have a big project like a book, like a show, like some new thing we've got, that's big, we overthink and overplan and over strategize. Like I have to have it all be perfect. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to write and I'm going to write what's flowing through me now about momentum. And after the end of the first writing session, I went for a walk with my wife and then I started to strategize what my second strategy session would be and so on until the whole book was done. And the book is part, I don't know if you've read it yet, Mika, but the book is part the actual book. Like most of the book is the content in the book, but then I also document the process of writing the book inside the book. So at the end of day one, I say, okay, this is the end of day one. Here's how much I wrote. Here's what was going through my mind. And then I summarize it at the end. So in total, I did 5 days and I think 6 writing sessions. Yeah. So it's 40,000 words. Wow. And it's on like the last page 2, one of the last pages, 209 here in the book, but it shows my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 writing sessions over 5 days. And most of them, like the first writing session was 2.5 hours. The
That is
second one was
cool.
2.5 hours. The third was 2 hours. Like this is what I was writing every day and managed to pound out the book. Now,
And
I
do you
think
feel like the content is the same at the same level as your first book, even though you wrote it so quickly?
yes, because I mean, the content was flowing through me as I was writing.
Mhm.
So my first book took a lot longer because I thought I needed to strategize everything and have the full outline done and then go down. Where this one, it was just flowing through me. I think nonfiction is easier to write than fiction because
Oh yeah.
what's in here is all the conversations our first conversation and all the
It's
other
in the
interviews
book?
I've done. Well,
We're
I
in the
don't mention
book?
names, but like
Oh.
the stories, the
Oh.
stories that I talk about, the advice that I give is a reflection of all the questions I've been asked. So the three of you asked some great questions last time. I've been on tons of shows. They ask me questions. I mentored the entrepreneurs on my team. And so it leads to,
We can tell people we've been in Evan's
you're in the
book.
book.
We're in the
You could say,
momentum book.
see that chapter where we talk about, X, that's us.
Yes,
That was
that's us.
inspired.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we need an autographed copy then.
So Evan, we have to figure out how you're gonna autograph, my ebook version.
How to autograph the ebook. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
I love that.
Oh,
Are you coming? Are you coming to the States at all anytime soon, where we can come and stalk you?
Where's home for you?
Chicago and Florida.
Nika's in Florida. You're in Florida too?
I'm in Chicago. Well, I have a house in Florida, but it's underwater and we lost our car. But that's a story for another podcast episode.
that is a story for another podcast. But for momentum, you could have written about anything. Why momentum?
So when I was on the Instagram live with Kira, that was the idea that came to me.
It's a lightning bolt. It's like a flash from the universe. Because I have 4 books and I write all the time. And sometimes I don't even know where things are coming from. It just it does. Like you say in the book, the ideas flow through you. It's so crazy.
I'm pretty sure that's the first chapter.
It sure is.
I don't remember what I wrote because it flowed through me. But
Wow.
let's see the order here. So the very first chapter, is believe that great ideas flow through you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's it. Like when we get an idea, we often don't, we often criticize it and judge it and think about it. Like, why am I thinking about that? I can't do that. I can't blank. I've got all these other things that I need to do. But the way to speed all that up is just trust that great ideas flow through you. So trust that the idea that is here is right and you should do something on it. Because the only way you actually find it is by doing, not by thinking and planning and over strategizing. The only caveat is making sure that you're in a good, you're in a good spot. Like if you're really pissed off and angry and somebody cuts you off in traffic, your idea might be to go like catch up to them and give them the finger or like look at who this nasty person is and what
That's
they look
my
like.
husband. That's
Yeah.
my husband
So like
you're talking about.
maybe don't trust that great ideas flow through you when you're feeling, rage. But we tend to follow through on those ideas, and we don't follow through on the good ones that can actually serve people. So as long as you're in a happy spot and it's a bold, ambitious thing, like trust that great ideas flow through you, and you have to do something to honor it, at least for today. Don't worry about if it has to work out and this is your next career path for the next decade or not. If you ladies have an idea for a show, cool, let's start one today. Like you start your show today, and then you see where it develops. And maybe that's a one and done show, or maybe that's something that, lasts for the rest of your lives. Who knows?
And you're talking to someone that gets an idea in her head and she does it. And I get a lot of ideas. It can sometimes be overwhelming. So how do you be the gatekeeper for these ideas?
You just make sure that gate doesn't become a cage, that
Mm-hmm.
if you are someone who loves coming up with ideas, that's actually your gift, and staying stuck with one idea forever becomes the cage.
Well, what if you have 20 ideas in one day?
What's your heart pull towards? What do you want to work on? What do you want to create? What do you want to go and make?
Everything.
Well, start on that. Like, so you got 20 ideas today. Which one? Like you pick one.
Mm-hmm.
What's the right one? There is no right one. They're all right ones. Like they're all great ideas for somebody. Somebody's going to make millions of dollars off of all the ideas that are in your head, those 20 ideas. Which is the one that you want to dedicate a little bit of time to? Whatever's in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Trust it. Just pick one of the ideas and go with it and start
Mm-hmm.
building momentum. And maybe that becomes something you do for the next 10 years. Or maybe that was just a Thursday afternoon exercise and now you're moving on to something else. You can't think about it on a couch. You won't know. you can't sit on your couch with your 20 ideas and know which one is going to
I
actually
take
work out or not.
action too. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I take action, but it can be overwhelming. It's like curating and fine tuning all the things, all the ideas that are flowing through you.
It's overwhelming because you're setting up the wrong expectations. You're saying, I have to be the person who follows through on all of these ideas, and it has to be perfect. You were muted. I didn't hear what you say. Oh, okay.
I was just mouthing, not perfect. I mean, Mika knows, like, I can overwhelm people with my ideas, but go, Meeks.
I was going to ask, what do you think, Evan, of these people that they have an idea? They say, I think there's a way to print without a wire. I think that's possible. Or I think it's possible to have, you know, garlic flavored butterscotch popcorn. It's not a thing yet, but I think, and then these ideas come to them and they get inspired, but then they don't do it. And then they hear a year later or 2 years later, wireless printing and, this garlic butterscotch, whatever flavored popcorn is a hit. And they go, I had that idea. Because we hear this all the time. We hear it was like, I had that idea first, but we don't act on it. How can someone use your book to kind of go from, or what do you think of that? We could use this question more than one way. It's like to use your book to where trusting these ideas flow through you, and be inspired to go from step by step to, visibility, where you can touch your idea and see your idea. Or do you get this all the time where you see people say, oh, I had this idea first about the internet or whatever, and someone else stole my idea that I never acted on?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Entrepreneurs see that all the time. And often it's the people who win off of quote unquote your idea often aren't as smart as you, and don't have as much intention as you, and don't care as much about the thing as you, and yet they're winning. Why? Because they did something on it. And so it's to honoring the ideas that come through you is honoring yourself. So it came to you to do garlic butterscotch popcorn. Cool. Like, do something about it.
Don't judge me, Evan.
Do something about it. I like it. Do something, like try. And the amount of doing, you don't have to take it all the way to completion, because it may not be an idea that ends up working. That's fine. Like maybe that's your idea for the day and you love it. And then you wake up tomorrow, it's like, you know what? I don't like that idea anymore. Cool. But at least you gave it a shot. Like in any of those, when people ask me similar to Jules of, hey, I've got 20 ideas, or I've got 5 ideas in my head. Cool. Go spend an hour on each idea today. And here's what's going to happen. You're going to spend an hour on each one, but one of them you're actually going to spend 4 hours on, and you lost track of time because you actually really think this is really cool. That's when to start spending more time on, so that you don't look back and then you say, I wish I gave it a chance back in 2022. I wish I gave it a shot. I wish I spent a little more time. And here's this person making tons of money off my idea.
But that speaks to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're at that point of self-actualization. You're at that pinnacle where you lose track of time and you are in that flow state, and there has to be a caveat on taking calculated risks. Like I remember my husband, like 20 years ago, he's said, oh, we should really put some stock into this new thing called Amazon, and I'm like, no, that doesn't really make sense. But now looking back, why didn't we do it? And taking those calculated risks and balancing, you have to use your head. And I know you talk about making big decisions with your heart and then the small ones with your head.
So I'm a big believer in spending your time on something at the beginning, but not your money. Invest your energy, your time, and see how it makes you feel. Like the thing that you're working on should give you more life than it takes away. You starting this podcast, the 3 of you starting this podcast, should give you more life. Like you should come out of a podcast more energized than when you came in. If it's not, then stop the podcast, go do something else, right? Or like, hey, we used to, that was a good run, and now we're done 6 months later, whatever, right? Like some shows last forever and some die off, but as long as your heart is into it, that it fuels you. So at some point, one of you 3 decided we should start a podcast together, right? So that's Mika. Mika's like, we should start a podcast together, right? And then, well, we should do it with two of my friends. Cool. And I'm sure at some point there's a little doubt in your head of like, well, what are we going to talk about and who we're going to have on and what do we know about
Evan
podcasting?
Carmichael.
Yeah, that was our day one 2 years ago. We're going to have Evan Carmichael. And we're thinking he's going to write a book about something about just facilitating momentum in our lives. And look at what happened.
We
On
made
the
it all happen.
very Amazon that you didn't believe in 20 years ago, Jules.
Right.
But you're a believer now.
I wish. Yeah.
But I want to ask you this, Evan. So you say you go into things a big part with your heart and a small part of it with your brain, with the thinking aspect. Are you a spiritual guy? Would you say you are? How much does spirituality play in your life and your business?
So I'm a big flow guy. I can bounce into, I can play in anybody's energy. So some people want to go deeply religious on things, and cool, let's go there, right? The ideas came from God, and God is guiding me to be here, and amazing. And some people just say it's all pattern recognition. Okay, cool, it's all pattern recognition. So and we can play there. Most important for me is I think everybody's got great things inside them. And I want to see that get out to the world. And the reason why it's not, the number one reason why you're not doing it is you. It's like all the stories and the BS and the overthinking and perfection. It's why I wrote the book. It's like the only thing you're missing is momentum. You got everything else. You got the heart and the care and the talent and the abilities. The only thing you're missing is momentum. You could have a great podcast and you got the idea for a podcast, and kudos to you for actually doing it, because most people have an idea for a podcast and then immediately talk themselves down from it. Not even tell their friends about it or their husband or wives. It's themselves saying, oh yeah, but I can't do that because I didn't go to school for this and I don't even know what gear to buy and who we're going to have on and what are we going to talk about. And yeah, and now that the idea is dead because you've allowed those negative voices to take over, as opposed to maybe this becomes the greatest thing of all time, but you don't know until you actually go off and start to do it. So yeah, the only thing you're missing, everybody, is just momentum. You got to get going.
Well, can I ask you a question? What can't you do, Evan? Tell us what you can't do.
I think there's obviously things that you can't do. Like I can't turn myself into a spoon, you know?
Duh.
I can't be at 42 years old. I'm probably not joining the NBA as a starting center, but like most of the things that we want to do are not like outside the laws of physics. Like it's completely possible. And other people with less money and less skill and less talent than you have done it. So you can too.
That's
right?
Crazy when I see that. When I see someone with less talent, less passion, and all I see is they're just consistent. Like you said, is consistency related to momentum?
For sure. Like the first part, as you get to the book, it starts about the mindset shifts of momentum, then how to get into gear and create momentum. And then the third part is how to stay consistent on the momentum. So you're not starting and stopping and starting and stopping. And one of the ways to do it is by creating the environment that allows that to continue to happen. So for me, I love studying successful people. I love studying Steve Jobs and Oprah Winfrey and telling their stories and having it on my channel. I mean, you look at Oprah Winfrey, if you look at where she came from, what she struggled with, the abuse from her own family, being raised by her grandmother, being so poor that she went to school. Like her grandmother had to she couldn't afford clothes. So she went and her grandmother bought bags of potatoes, took the potatoes out and sewed a dress out of potato bags. And that's what Oprah went to school in. Like, could you imagine going to school in potato bags?
Oh, no, I could not.
And to go from that to Oprah, billionaire, most successful, woman of all time. Like, what's your excuse?
There's no excuse.
And not using it as a negative, like beat yourself up, but as an inspiration, say it's possible. Like people have done it. So, to Jules's question, what's not possible? Well, there's lots of things that are not possible, but the dreams that you have for yourself are, because you don't dream of turning yourself into a spoon. Right? Like the things that are physically not possible are not really your goals. The ideas that you have, ultimately, I believe everybody wants to serve, You want to help. You want to feel like your work is meaningful. You want to feel like you're going to wake up today and you're going to make something that's going to matter to somebody else. Maybe it's the world, or maybe it's the 5 people closest to you, but we all want to feel like we're going to make something today that's going to matter. And that's completely possible. But it's because we feel like we haven't gone to school and we don't have the role models and we don't have the knowledge yet. In 2022, 2023, it's no longer an excuse. Like maybe for your parents, maybe for your grandparents, it wasn't possible. But for you, now there's no reason why you can't.
Can we talk about Maya Angelou for a second?
Okay, I love Maya Angelou.
We know you do. We know it.
Funny story. The other night, in the middle of the night, Jules and I and Tia, we have a manifestation journal that we are producing right now. That'll be ready November 1st. We'll have
Maybe
it
December 1st.
December 1st.
Yeah.
And so I was looking up, so I'm doing the month of February, and that section is, I chosen it to be wholeness. So I chose that, and I wanted a quote, and I just was like, oh, Maya Angelou. So I type into YouTube, Maya Angelou, a worthiness, and of course your video on Maya Angelou comes up. And I'm ashamed to say I did it. You actually helped me to, I knew very little of Maya Angelou. And so let's talk about Maya Angelou for some who could be listening who are not familiar with her.
Well, I mean, read her books, watch her videos. There's a lot of content up there. I mean, talk about a pioneer in the space. She was at the generation like just before everything started to hit. And so I think of Maya Angelou, I think of Louise Hay, I think of even Wayne Dyer, a lot of these super legends that were well known, you know, in their era. But if they existed now, like imagine Maya Angelou going on YouTube every day. That would be insane. It would be insane. So we put together some tribute videos. That's maybe an easy place to start. Like if you don't know Maya and you know, you hear me and Mika talking about it, you can just search up Maya Angelou Rules for Success on YouTube, and that's probably a good start. But I love how clearly she thinks. I love how she always takes the high road, but doesn't back down. And I love how she makes you feel like you can do it. You know, it's believe in her own style. One of my ninja projects is I'm trying to get Oprah on to talk about Maya Angelou. Like this is one of our like ongoing. Oprah is like insanely impossible to, you know, we're in with the right people there. She's just not doing any interviews right now. But I feel like the world needs a better Maya Angelou tribute, because she's only known with like a certain generation. And I think the wisdom is just amazing. So anyway, I got lots of time for Maya Angelou, and that's what I just wish that I just imagine, holy cow, if she was around right now, the YouTube videos would be, she'd be the queen of TikTok.
Your
queen of
face lights
everything.
up, Evan. Like, I'm not kidding. Your face lights up when you talk about Maya Angelou.
That's a special woman.
Yeah.
That is a special woman. And I love, there was a part of the clip in the interview where the interviewer asked her, Maya, will you have a child, or do you plan on having children? She goes, no, I'd like to adopt, and you can bet that child, she would learn how to live, how to enjoy life.
You're
And she's
even talking a
saying
little bit
this-
like her there. I like her. You're
You
channeling.
just gave her the biggest compliment
channeling.
of all times. Oh
She
no,
slowed
that's your
down.
birthday
She sunk
gift.
into the words. No, it's great.
It's my birthday. No,
I
but
love
so
it.
see, I'm channeling Maya. But honestly, like she says, she just trumped in that part of the interview. She trumps helping this child and understand how to enjoy life. That life is meant to be enjoyed. She put that as something primary, and I was like, wow, this woman.
Yeah, with all the suffering that she went through, it's like, how does she have the strength to have such a positive message? It's what is very aspirational to me. It's like I've suffered like nothing compared to Maya Angelou or Oprah Winfrey, and to have Maya still be like, it didn't break her, it just emboldened her, but still lead with love instead of anger. And just the strength and not backing down, but it's like not it's the most powerful butterfly in the world. It's like, it's kind of how I see it. It's like she's so soft and gentle and beautiful and amazing, but strong, and you're not going to step on her. And it's just this amazing mix. So there's some people like that. Yeah, I think of Madam CJ Walker too. Like, we did a profile of Madam CJ Walker, who, like, nobody knows who Madam CJ Walker
I saw
is.
that. I saw that.
She was the first
That's amazing. I love her.
She was the first American self-made millionaire,
Yes.
and she was Black.
Yes.
Was she the first female or first Black female?
First female period, and she was Black,
Mm-hmm.
which at that time was insane.
And yeah, impossible.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is like early 1900s, right?
Yeah.
So it's like nobody cares, nobody knows, like nobody knows that name. And so, like, but this is a cool story. So we made a tribute video on her, and then her granddaughter or great granddaughter, I forget, reached out and like thanked me and like helping get the message out. I mean, I didn't know her; it wasn't my intention either. But just there's some really cool stories that when you can get inspired by it, like, maybe I could do something. Like, your story is not worse than Madam C.J. Walker being, in 1900s, a Black woman in America.
Oh.
Good luck, right? So what are you complaining about now in 2022? You have the internet, everybody, right?
That's
like,
true.
go, right? And again, not to use that to beat yourself up, but as a push forward. Like, you can go create amazing things, make it happen.
And you never know. The truth is, like, you never know when you do something, when you embark on a project or you meet a new person, how they are going to change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty and the mystery of life, but you have to keep going, and you have to keep the spirit within you. And you teach it so well in your book, Momentum. I'm sure it's going to be an NYT bestseller if it's not already. Is it?
Let's get it out. Well, when you don't go with a major publisher, you don't get on any of the lists. So that's fine. But it's never been about the list for me. It's about getting it out to people. And it's a book I told my publisher, like, I started my own publishing company. I partnered with somebody on a publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Kira. Yeah, the woman who I did the IG Live with, we then started a publishing company together.
Oh, isn't that amazing? And that changed the trajectory of your life, that one relationship with, what was her name?
Kira.
Kira.
Just agreeing to do the Instagram Live session when I knew that I didn't want to write a book, because I just liked her soul, and maybe there's something we can do. I just wanted to help her, and it led to this.
I love that you are representing these women like Madam C.J. Walker and Oprah and Lisa Nichols. And I love Lisa Nichols. I met her in Atlanta at one of the Black Enterprise events in 2015. But the fact that you showcase these women, and to people, 20-year-olds may not really know them. And, they weren't born when Oprah had her show airing 5 days a week. And so some people go, Maya Angelou, even like Lisa Nichols. So the fact that you mention these women and you showcase them on your channels, like, oh, they get to, if they're wanting to talk about maybe momentum or persistence, or, something that tweaks their brain about Kobe Bryant, and they get to your videos pop up, like what it did for me.
Did we talk about the Star Trek Lieutenant Uhura story last time I was on?
No.
Okay, so this is the thing that pushed me over into making this kind of content. Was I was Lieutenant Uhura. I don't know if you guys ever watched the original Star Trek.
Yes, and I think she just recently passed away. She recently had a birthday or passed away. I saw that last week.
She was third in command of the Starship Enterprise. Okay, so a Black woman in command so in the future, like, Black women are in command, right? Which already was like a giant, bold step for Gene Roddenberry, who's the producer, to cast a Black woman. It was Captain Kirk, and then Spock, and then Lieutenant Uhura, original Star Trek. And after the first season, she wanted to leave the show and go back to Broadway, because that was her passion, was Broadway. And she said, I mean, it's a great show, thank you, but I'm leaving. I'm going to go back to Broadway. And then Martin Luther King came to pay her a visit. And he went to her trailer and said, you can't quit. I heard you're going to quit the show. You can't quit the show. You have to keep going. You have to keep doing this for us. And she's like, but I'd rather be out marching the streets with you. And he's like, but you're doing it on TV. Like your march is just as great out there on TV. And so that conversation convinced her to keep on the show until the whole show was finished. But my favorite part of that story, I mean, that's really cool. So it's like, can we be, for your movement, how can you be the Martin Luther King for other people? Because when heroes are about to quit on something, are you as good a friend to them? Are you telling them to continue on? Are you telling them that this is needed? So can you be, we're all the Martin Luther King of our own mission that we're chasing down. And so are you, like, what he was great at was shining the spotlight on people. He wasn't always the one on the front lines, but he was the one saying, look at what this person's doing, and look at what those kids in the restaurant are doing, and like shining the spotlight and encouraging people to keep going. So like we could all, maybe it doesn't change America or change the world, but like you could still do that in the thing that you're great at, is shining a light on the people around you who are having some momentum. But my favorite part of that story is Whoopi Goldberg, famous actress, you guys, Whoopi Goldberg. So she's watching Uhura on TV when she was a girl. And she said, she goes, grabs her mom and says, mommy, there's a black woman on TV and she ain't no maid. Because at the time, if you're a black woman on TV, you're a maid, you're a servant, you're like secretary, low level. So there's a black woman on TV and she ain't no maid. And that inspired Whoopi Goldberg to then go be an actress from watching Uhura on TV. And so I just love that story. It's because people see themselves in you. And so the more you can share your story and the more you can put yourself out there, and the more we sometimes feel like it doesn't matter, like nobody's paying attention, nobody's noticing. We only had 50 people watch that video. Well, maybe one of those 50 people, like that's a life-changing moment for them. Like they see themselves in you, and now you've given them permission to stand up and be more. So anyway, that's I love those kind of stories. Like it's kind of hidden stories people don't know about.
You're a storyteller at heart.
And then
Really?
it's funny because I'll have like, and some of our obsessors listeners know that I have a vegan bakery and restaurant in Central Florida. And so when someone comes in, because I don't have it listed on Google, like Black owned or anything like that, but I think I'll change that. So when someone comes in and they meet me and they go, oh, and she's Black. And then it's like, they feel good. They're like, you look like us. And I'm like, well, yeah. So that moment, they get this moment where they kind of feel, they feel inspired. They're like, wow, there's one of us. So it's like it kind of inspires them in different aspects of their lives, and it makes them feel good. For that brief moment, there's a connection. And even those that don't verbalize it, their eyes just light up. They're like, oh, you're the owner, and their eyes just light up like stars. And I haven't done anything yet. They haven't had our food yet, but they're like, they've already shown me a piece of their heart, their soul, just in that little fact, that little information, that
Yeah.
I'm not, just a cashier, and I'm serving them as a cashier, but they, it's like, wow, she can do it. I can do XYZ.
Yeah. And there's all sorts of those stereotypes that get broken down, right? So I mean, it might be a skin color issue or a gender issue. Even like the woman is running a business, like that for somebody else, be really cool, and like, wow, maybe I can do that. Even like vegan bakery, people will think you can't make, like, you need butter. Hello, what do you mean vegan bakery, right?
I know. I can't get over that. There's no butter.
Right. Well, better. If it's a vegan bakery, you can't have butter. But, at the beginning of that whole movement, a lot of the stuff did taste quite nasty. Like the early days of tofurkey and like all this stuff was like, it was pretty bad. But there's a store here in Toronto that when they first started was in a church basement doing like just to raise money and whatever. And they had this little table. It was a company called Bunners, and it's just, two entrepreneurs that started, and it's a little big table, and they had butter tarts. And I don't know if you know what butter tarts are. It's a Canadian thing, but it's like, imagine a pecan pie with no pecans. So just the caramel,
Oh,
the size of a muffin.
It's like
the size of a muffin. It's like small. Like a really mini, really rich. You'd eat the whole thing, but it's the size of a muffin, but it's like half the size because it's a pecan pie, right? So if you ever come to Canada, this is like one of the Canadian things. So they had vegan butter tarts.
Wow.
No way you're making a vegan butter. Like, there's no way it's going to be anything good. It's not possible. But you know what? Local entrepreneur, help them out. I'll buy a vegan butter tart. And the ate is like, oh my God, like this is actually, if I didn't know it was vegan, I wouldn't know that it was vegan. Like this is the first thing I had that put vegan out of the
that's
category
really
of
rich.
it may be good for you, but like doesn't
Alfalfa
taste.
sprouts.
Yeah, it doesn't taste very good. So you get like mental reset before you eat the thing, right? And now fast forward, I mean that they have multiple physical stores in Canada, have launched their own book line and other things, and have just exploded. But like you're changing stereotypes too, where people feel like you can't have a vegan bakery. Well, you're crazy. That's not going to work. It's not going to taste very good. And then they come in and they have whatever you're selling. It's like, oh wow, this is really good, right? And so you never know where that leads. You never know who might be inspired by your story. I'm sure, Uhura didn't think that Whoopi Goldberg would be watching it and she'd be inspiring women to become actresses, right? So it's like Steve Jobs' famous quote is, you can't connect the dots looking forward, only backwards. Like, oh, that all made sense to see the path. So yeah, just assume that great things will happen. Like they was given to you, great ideas flow through you, and keep going, and assume that if you had 50 people watch your video or listen to your podcast, that for one person, that's a life-changing episode for them because you showed up.
Because you showed up. Believe Nation, everybody. Wow. So your book is out. What's the next thing that you're going to be releasing that you can talk about?
This podcast.
This is
Let's
gonna
go.
this is gonna blow you away. I mean, when Mika and I are on the front cover of podcasts, and we're gonna have you there, and we're gonna be in our our hoodies.
Believe Nation. There we go.
This is it. This is the next thing that's being released. I like it. No, I mean, I don't really know. Like I wrote this book in 5 days, ladies. I have no idea. I think that's great.
Mhm.
Especially if you're an entrepreneurial kind of business. If you know where you're going to be in 5 years, you're thinking small. You have no idea. Like you weren't doing this 5 years ago. You had no idea you'd be here.
True.
5 years ago. And yet here you are. So, what makes you think that you know where you're going to be in 5 years? There's no way. Not if you're growing and learning and improving, like if you were in the military, maybe in 5 years, you're going to be 3 ranks higher or whatever. But as an entrepreneur, you have no
It's
idea.
roller coaster. We love you, Evan. We appreciate all your time. If you can't tell, we truly are obsessed with you. You bring so much value to our lives. You bring so much value to the people that in your community and the world, and just your reach just boggles our minds. We can't wait to watch that video of you and Oprah talking all things Maya Angelou, and Mika and I will be in the background, like handing out sweatshirts to everybody.
Eating caramel
Eating
ice cream.
caramel, and
We're
we're going to hold the
manifesting now.
garlic.
We're writing all this in your manifestation.
Everything I think of happens. Thank you so much. And we cannot wait to have you on for a third time. We're going to talk to you. We're going to talk you into it. Sometime your next book comes out, and I'm always like to introduce people because you never know, the next person you meet will change the trajectory of your life. So
True.
just like you did for us today.